Welcome back. And if you missed our last episode with Cliff, I encourage you to go back and listen to it to really talk about how our faith, our belief, and honesty can really help us when we're selling our businesses and moving forward. I am so excited. You need to sit back and relax. I am excited to have Kirk Jaffe here with me from Kirk Jaffe Consulting. And he is all about what? Getting you to that road to success. Hi, Kirk. Welcome.
Hey, Vicki, thank you for having me on the show.
No problem. Thank you so much for being here. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about what Kirk Jaffe does to get us to the road of success?
Yeah, well, the road to success is paved differently for everyone. My career really started about 35 years ago. I was a chef and transitioned from being a chef on private yachts and in the best restaurants in the world. Moved out to California from the East Coast and got into real estate because I figured, what do you do in California to make money? You better get into real estate. So did that, ended up opening a business, running the third largest default loan servicer during 2008 to 2014 during the financial crisis. Spent time in Washington, D.C., working with the House Financial Services Committee to craft some of those regulations around the Dodd-Frank Act. And from there, went to work for myself. So Kirk Jaffe Enterprises and Tall Pines Consulting and we have 6 companies over here altogether. Um, but this is really about a lifelong of experience and helping people save that 25 to 30-year learning curve that you and I definitely have experienced over some of those road bumps, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Kurt, a lot of people in our audience are really trying to grow wealth. And it often feels like they're stuck, they can't move forward. So, one of my questions is what are the biggest financial mistakes that keep people from building wealth and moving forward from your perspective?
Yeah, I think the biggest financial mistake is not staying a course. And so people jump from one thing to the next. They spend a lot of money making those jumps, but they don't actually master any one of the tools that they were out, seeking out to get. So I really tell people if you're gonna go into education. So when I started out in my business, I spent about $250,000 on sales education. I took every single sales training that was available anywhere I could find it. But that was my mandate. I was going to become a professional sales trainer, salesperson, and I was going to learn everything there was to know about it. And it took me about, 7 years to get through all that. And then it was marketing. And then I said, well, I need to learn how to market. So that was a 20-year experience, and I only focused on that. Obviously, keeping up licenses and day-to-day work, qualifications are always important, so we do those things too. But I think people need to get focused on one thing and finish it.
Now, that's an interesting perspective, getting focus and finishing it, especially when there's so much change around you. So, how can someone start making smarter money decisions when the change is constant?
Yeah, I talk a lot about my consulting business, and we consult with all different kinds of companies, small businesses, doctors, restaurants. I mean, you name it, we're involved with them probably. Um, Principles. You have to have principles and how you make decisions and what that decision-making tree looks like, right, Vicky?
Hmm.
So I think a lot of times people go into it and they go, I want to be rich.
Hmm.
Okay, that's fine. I go into it and I say, I want to be rich because I'm going to be the best home builder in the country.
Hmm.
And I get real focused on what do I need to do to be the best home builder so I can make the
Hmm.
most money, right? And that's one
Hmm.
of our companies.
Hmm. Well, and because you have so many companies, I really want to ask this question. A lot of times, and you said this a second ago, okay, you need to be focused. But what if I have multiple capabilities, just like you have multiple with different businesses? How do I stay focused, but doing the things that I want to do of the portfolio that I enjoy doing it in?
Yeah, I have a very good friend who's older than me, and he asked me years ago, "Why are you doing so many things? You're doing too much. Get focused." I never understood what he was talking about, kind of what you're mentioning now, right? And what I learned over the years was this concept of do something until it's completed. So why do we have six companies? Because I have built, launched, and completed six companies. I didn't start one and then jump to the other and then jump to another and then jump to another. I put one in play. I made sure it can make money and create stability for me and my family. And then I started a complementary company. So to your point, all of my companies are integrated in my abilities,
Mhm.
right? Like I said, I spent all those years running large finance companies and mortgage companies and real estate companies, and I was responsible to build 2,200 units at that time and oversee a portfolio of insurance on all these different properties that was pushing multiple hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mhm.
So now today I can take my expertise in insurance analytics and work with my clients to make sure that they're getting the right insurance policies. I can build a single home because one home is very easy for me. I've done 2,200 at one time. So doing one means I'm really focused on that one. And I do that because these are high dollar luxury homes. But the interesting thing about it is I'm building and using modular technology.
Mhm.
So I shifted. I'm not a traditional home builder. And it took
Mhm.
me 7 or 8 years to learn factory built technology and all that goes with that. So again, get real focused and then integrate and dovetail your expertise into a bigger platform. Why do we want six companies? Multiple streams of income, right, Vicki? How do
Absolutely.
people get rich? Don't be dependent on one income source because the only thing I can guarantee you is something's going to shift in the world that's going to make one income source a problem. If you got six income sources, you'll probably be okay somewhere.
But I think that's what I'm really hitting on. So, for example, when I started my business, I used what I knew that I had done all my life in corporate. I was in technology and I was using technology to move forward. But as time started shifting and companies may not be hiring consultants as much or whatever, the opportunity allowed itself to pivot to be able to actually do a lot of leadership transformation simply because of the connections I was having and people wanting to transform their careers, transform what they wanted to do personally, etc. So I built another arm. Well, the first arm of technology didn't go away, it slowed down, but I built the other arm to leverage it out, right? Then, as times changed and things were happening, the people I was talking to found out they want to transform, but they want to start their own business. I said, da da, an opportunity. So I became a certified profit coach to actually help them start their business, take it from beginning to end, how to double, how to triple their revenue, how to use low cost strategies and be successful to get what they wanted, that time and financial freedom, right? But I never stopped the other two. So does that mean I should stop the other two and make different businesses? Or does that mean that that focus is off? I'd love your perspective.
Yeah, well, it sounds to me like you've dovetailed, right? And the
Mhm.
most important word that you said in that explanation to me was pivot.
Yes.
Being able to recognize when something is working or when something is not working, it takes discipline to be able to pivot. I've had to pivot all the time, right? We always are pivoting.
Mhm.
Um, but again, if you take pivot and combine it with principles,
Yes.
so one of my principles is every one of my companies has to stand on its own 2 feet. It's like a
Mhm.
child.
Mhm.
So if one of my companies hits a roadblock, I can't overcome it. I can't find the resource. I just can't work it out. It's time to pivot. It doesn't mean shut down the company because
Right.
it'll come back around,
Right.
right? Because I opened it with a principle and an integrated concept of why we did it to begin with. So
Mhm.
we know there's value, but maybe we need to pivot for a moment and pick up something where we can leverage the environment that we're in to get something else done, move something else forward. I love that book, Who Moved My Cheese? Have you
Exactly.
seen that one, right?
Exactly.
Are you scurrying? Are you huffing and puffing? Or are you keeping your shoes, ready to go in case you need to run and pivot? And I think that's the lesson in there. for sure.
So I really like the fact of the way how you talked about it's okay to pivot, because I can't tell you a number of times I've had people say, "Oh, you're not focused." Yes, I am focused. Just because I pivoted doesn't mean that everything's the same. So there's a number one priority every time based upon what's happening around me. But if I didn't have the opportunity to do that, I'd have been left with nothing when things change because I wasn't ready. But because I was ready, I have opportunities to pivot in multiple directions. And I think that's important when we start talking about wealth. And that leads me to another question. What are some of the simple habits that lead to long term financial success that you would give to others?
Yeah. The simple habits are spend less than you make. Uh, Put away money into savings and find ways to force some of that savings. So I use insurance policies as one of my investment strategies. The reason I like it is because it's a bill that's paid every month, and I don't think about it. But when I look at the account, there's a whole bunch of cash in it. So spend less than you make, put away automatically into wherever things you can. And if you're going to invest in things like the stock market, that's fine too. But again, have principles. You know, Warren Buffett, the greatest investor in the United States in the last 100 years or so, um, only has like what, 12 companies that he invests in, right? It's not a huge thing. And he holds his companies for a long time. He buys when there's trouble, he sells when they're doing great. So have some discipline, put money away automatically, and also surround yourself with people that are high net worth or succeeding in whatever they're doing to save their money and grow their money. So, you know, we're a product of the top 5 people we hang around, right? So hang around people that are highest quality, and you will end up creating highest quality investments and savings too.
Well, I love how you said that it's the top five people we hang around, right? And I think that's really important in terms of setting our mindset, understanding that we're all aligned and how do we get there, and how do we make sure that when we're looking for high ticket item clients, that we're not hanging around people that are low ticket item clients that don't understand, right? That
Right.
really putting yourself in the circle that's going to allow you to prosper. And I think that's so important because our environment is an influence and a feeder to our brain. It gives our brain food, right? It nourishes it by whom we're around and what we're doing as we continue to move forward. So I think, you're hitting on something, that financial growth also is not only manifesting, but you manifest when you put yourself in around positive people and other people who think the same way, so that you're all going in that positive direction together.
Yeah. And don't
Kirk,
forget,
we're
it's
going
not.
to take a station break. And when we come back, I'm going to pick up on this conversation. We'll be right back.